Isn't it funny how all of the conspiracy theories of the last 4 years are suddenly being proven true? If you said that the economy was in bad shape, or that unemployment was higher than the official government numbers, or that inflation was a real thing, you were accused of mis and disinformation. I mean, both Joe Biden and Kamala Harris ran on how strong the economy was and what a great job they did for Americans. They denied the reality of inflation, they denied the reality of unemployment, but now that the media and the Democrats have nothing to lose, now that they've lost, all of a sudden, the truth is coming out. Take a look at this headline that Politico just published today. Voters were right about the economy. The data was wrong. They could have published that last year. Heck, they could have published it anytime over the last 4 years. But the timing is really notable, especially since it was just last week when Politico's ties to USAID were exposed. So the article opens like this. Before the presidential election, many Democrats were puzzled by the seeming disconnect between economic reality, as reflected in various government statistics, and the public's perception of the economy on the ground. And then they actually make the point that many of us have been making for years. What if the numbers supporting the case for broad-based prosperity were themselves misrepresentations? What if, in fact, darker assessments of the economy were more authentically tethered to reality than the government numbers? And that's exactly what I was saying all of last year during the election cycle. Because, again, both Joe Biden and Kamala Harris were touting the strong economic numbers. And one of those numbers that they touted all the time were, hey, look at the new jobs numbers. Look at how many new jobs we've created. Well, there are two issues with those job numbers that they were bragging about. Number one are the revisions. Months after the fact, they would always revise the job numbers, and it's funny. The revisions always went one direction. Down. They never said, oh, we underestimated how many jobs we created. We actually created more. They always overestimated the number of actual jobs. And when the revisions came out, they were down tens of thousands and in some cases, hundreds of thousands. So yeah, the Biden administration overinflated their own numbers. And number two, those jobs figures never accounted for whether or not someone else was already working a job, or in some cases, multiple jobs. Look, if someone needs to work multiple jobs in order to make ends meet, in order to provide for their family, does that not infer and indicate that the economy is in pretty bad shape? Now, I get that there are some cases where working multiple jobs could be seen as a good thing. For example, maybe right before the holidays, you take on a part-time job so you can afford gifts for your family and you don't take out credit card debt. Or maybe you take a part-time job before the summer so you can afford to take your family on summer vacation. And again, don't get into credit card debt. I think that's an act of responsibility. But in most cases, working multiple jobs is typically not a good thing. It's typically an indication of stress or some sort of financial hardship. And in this Politico article, they go into more factors about why the jobs numbers weren't as rosy as they seem. First, the unemployment rate, as reported by the government, counts as employed the millions of people who are unwillingly underemployed, that is, people who, for example, work only a few hours each week while searching for a full-time job. Second, it does not take into account many Americans who have been so discouraged that they are no longer trying to get a job. Finally, the prevailing statistic does not account for the meagerness of any individual's income. Thus, you could be homeless on the streets, making an intermittent income, and functionally incapable of keeping your family fed, and the government would still count you as employed. And of course, all of that doesn't even take into account factors such as inflation, which of course chip away at your dollar's worth and how much you're actually earning at work. So after that long introduction, after that long preamble, Politico finally gets to the heart of the issue and makes some news. They actually buried the lead, so to speak. Burying the lead is a journalistic term where, the lead is the top, the most important line of a story. It's what you should lead with. It's what you should put in the headline. But instead, they bury this way down below because it exposes the Biden regime, everything that the last 4 years has gotten wrong. What they discovered is, if you filter the statistic to include as unemployed people who can't find anything but part-time work or who make a poverty wage, roughly $25,000, the percentage is actually 23.7%. In other words, nearly 1 of every 4 workers is functionally unemployed in America today, hardly something to celebrate. Again, the timing of this could not be more suspect, could not be more coincidental or convenient. They waited until February 2025 to draw that conclusion and then to publish it. Did something happen over the last month that changed the state of the economy? Sure, there were the January jobs numbers, but as I talked about in a previous video, that was closing the books on the Biden era. And none of those numbers were any indication or any reflection of the job Trump is doing. After all, he's barely been in office for 3 weeks. So what changed, Politico? But it wasn't just the unemployment numbers. Politico actually did some journalistic investigation and found that there was similar manipulation when it came to earnings. According to them, today, as a result, those keeping track are led to believe that the median wage in the US stands at roughly $61,900. But if you track everyone in the workforce, that is, if you include part-time workers and unemployed job seekers, the results are remarkably different. Our research reveals that the median wage is actually little more than $52,300 per year. What a big difference. What an overrepresentation being made by the federal government. Now, as a best case scenario, maybe the media was just turning a blind eye, a willful blind eye, to the obviously suspicious economic numbers. Or maybe they were simply going to bat for their team, so to speak. But in the aftermath of these USAID revelations, I can't help but wonder what that conflict of interest is between Politico and the federal government. Well, a lot has been said recently about censorship and the Democrat attacks on free speech. But whenever we talk about censorship, we think about big tech, right? We think about Meta, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, censoring what you can say online. Maybe you got put into Facebook jail for saying the wrong thing, or your account got deactivated for daring to go against groupthink. But what if the censorship is also between the government and the mainstream media as well? So earlier today, there was a protest. Again, they were protesting Doge and Elon Musk. And Ayanna Pressley said something really interesting about censorship.
Look, let me tell you something. I'll take a bit of umbrage here. I'll speak on behalf of my colleagues. I think I can say we are all willing to work with anyone who's serious about doing the work of censoring the American people and advancing progress. But they are not serious.
I'm glad that didn't get a lot of cheers. That was not a huge applause line, even among the left. She did get one "that's right," which I'm assuming is a donor or another Democrat congresswoman. But who is she talking about there? The obvious guess is big tech, but you know, there were the Twitter files, right? Joe Biden was accused, and it appears to have been proven through the Twitter files, that the Biden administration pressured big tech to actually censor Americans. But what if the same thing happened with the media? What if they were like, hey, don't question our economic numbers. Hey, we want you to follow our spin. Hey, we want you, if Karine Jean-Pierre says something during a press briefing, you're just going to run with it. Don't question her. Don't try to manipulate the numbers and demanipulate what we've done. By the way, as a side note, not only was that Democrat protest this morning pitiful, it was really embarrassing and cringeworthy for them. Here is Representative Maxine Dexter.
I've been told I have 30 seconds, so I am going to tell you that we do have to, I don't swear in public very well, but we have to Trump. Please don't tell my children that I just did that.
Miss Dexter, if you don't want your kids to know something, perhaps you shouldn't do it. Just a free tip. Now, if Politico has learned its lesson, or if Politico's turning a corner, or if Politico's trying to right its wrongs, that is not representative of the rest of the mainstream media. CNN, MSNBC, again, are doubling down on dumb. Just this morning, they were freaking out again about big balls and how Elon Musk has changed his Twitter handle.
Now, the disruptor-in-chief, Elon Musk, who apparently has adopted the alias, at least he changed his social media handle to Harry Balls, tweeted this morning, "Democracy in America is being destroyed by judicial coup. An activist judge is not a real judge." And as
take a deep breath for just a moment and ponder big balls.
Yeah, the media outrage is going to ensue. They're not learning their lessons, even though their ratings are literally in the toilet. Well, yeah, no, literally, not hyperbolically, literally. Yes, of course, I'm being facetious. I know the difference between literally and hyperbolically, allegedly, supposedly, and controvertibly. But as always, all of that is just my analysis and commentary. That is what's going on in the world of politics from my point of view, and I would love to hear from you. So, what do you think about that Politico piece and their assessment of the functional unemployment rate being over 23%? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Would you have filtered the numbers differently? And if so, how would you have done it? Let me know down in the comments below. If you haven't already, please be sure to give me a thumbs up. I know it is a simple thing to ask for, but it really does help me reach more viewers like you in the algorithm. Be sure to smash that subscribe button and to check out one of these videos.